Okay. Hello and welcome to the third episode of the 21st Century Writer podcast. My name is Diane Patterson and I'm here with
Hannah Steenbok.
And today's topic is, what is today's topic? Today's topic is how to get into your writing flow every morning. So
we have plenty of stuff to talk about with that.
Yeah, so a big part of being a writer is, of course, mindset and deciding to be a writer and really getting into the headspace where you're like, yes, now I am going to make up people who never existed and have them talk to each other and attempt to convince you, the writer, that they are real people. Some days this is harder to do than others.
Oh,
so you have to set yourself up to do it, right?
Yes, it's a lot about self-management and habit shaping, and it's totally a mindset thing.
Yeah. So you have to get yourself into that space where you're like, yes, now I'm going to sit down and do this and take it seriously. So thought we would talk a little bit about what we do every day to achieve that. So
let's start by our own habits, and then we can go into possibly some EFT exercises that I can do, or I can explain what habit stacking is. And this is stuff I'm coaching. So, but let's start with our nitty-gritty writer life first.
Right. Okay. Do you want to go first, dear?
Oh, sure. Okay. There I go, laughing again. Woohoo!
I'll go ahead and say wow. Wow.
Well, I have good days and bad days, and I'm going to describe a good day because I juggle a lot of things, and on bad days that juggling doesn't work and writing falls off the side. But on a good day, I get up at around 6. I have this wonderful wake-up light, which starts lighting up half an hour before the alarm goes off, and then when the alarm goes off, it's already light in the room, and it plays some beautiful flute, Zen music, and I love waking up that way because it wakes me up without that adrenaline start, so I can actually glide into my day. And then I make some tea, and on a good day, on an ideal day, I do one of the Deepak Chopra meditation things, which is about 20 minutes, and I sit in that armchair and I'm bundled up in a blanket and I do this meditation. And I need to fire up my computer to do the meditation. So it's already up and running when the meditation is over. And then I take myself and my mug of tea to my desk, open the file, read the last couple of paragraphs. I may actually do some very light editing, just change a word or two to just get back into the headspace, and then I start writing, and I have 45 minutes, 40 minutes that I can use in the mornings, and then I have to have breakfast and run off to my day job because I work in the mornings, and I leave my home at around 8. On ideal days, I leave a few minutes early, and it takes me about 20 minutes to walk to my office.
Oh, that's nice.
Then I start the day. And on a really, really extremely good day, I have another writing space when I get home, but usually afternoons are washouts. I'm good for promos, I'm good for social media, and especially when I do nano, I really get another writing window after 6 in the evening, in the afternoon evening. And I try to go to bed before 10, so usually 9 p.m. is my turn off the computer time, because on days when I don't get enough sleep, I can forget writing. I just can forget it. If I can't get out of my other stuff, forget about writing. Yeah. And sometimes it's blog posts that I need to do in the mornings, and then the writing kind of loses.
So what about the schedule tells you to write? What about it gets you into the writing mindset?
It's actually opening the file. It really is opening the file. But what I often do is, because of the wake-up light, I often wake up 10 minutes before the alarm actually goes off, and it's already nice and bright in my room, my bedroom. And that's when I do sort of pre-writing. It's when I start thinking about my characters, about the scene that is up next. I try to enter the world. I mean, I write fantasy, so I actually have to put myself into the world, think about where everything's going to happen. And I wrote a fight scene the other day, and I really need to think through that again because I'm not happy with it. So that's what I do in those moments when I'm not fully awake, not yet ready to face the day, but I really, I really like um, having this quiet time. Sometimes when I can't write, when I get stuck, I curl up in an armchair again, or I even curl up in bed in the afternoon. It's really weird, and I don't go to sleep. I just enter this state of um, I don't even have a word for it. It's like all the outside troubles are gone, and I can really go into this half dream state and think about my story and hear my characters talking. And I think that's where I create my best scenes, actually.
Like a hypnagogic state, or
Like what?
hy- um, the space between being awake and being asleep is
Yes.
called hypnagogia.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I just didn't know the word. I
yeah.
like to call it dream state because it is exactly that between waking and sleeping.
Hmm.
That's where I plot my stories.
Okay. And what do
What
you
do you
do on a bad day where
on a
things aren't just falling into place?
on a bad day? It's like pulling hair. Um, on a really bad day, I have a blog post due, and I can't even get into my story. I need to whip up a blog post in the morning writing time that I have, which includes drawing a little sketch and scanning it, and it's just a pain because my old scanner doesn't work with my current desktop. It only works with my old laptop that still has XP
Technology
on
is
it.
awesome
So
right up until it sucks.
so I fire up my laptop, I fire up the scanner, I scan the whole thing, I take it to my PC through a USB drive and upload the picture. So this is, I mean, it works, but eventually I'll get a new scanner. Um, it's actually a driver problem. There's no driver for Windows 7, and the old driver crashes my computer.
Right.
So yeah. So on a bad day, I'm freaking out about the blog post. I'm late getting to work, which is really bad. I We have flexible time schedules, and it doesn't matter a thing if I get there 10 minutes later than usual, 20
Right.
minutes later than usual. My boss doesn't care. Nobody cares. We have a time management system there that, you know, as long as I actually end up going there,
Going to
everyone
yes.
is fine. So,
I
so
actually had a friend who just stopped showing up to work.
oh,
Just stopped going. Eventually got fired for that, but yeah. There are people who just stop going.
yeah. Well, it's. I'm really relieved we have this flexible time scheme. I know of people who get fired because they're 2 minutes late.
Ugh, ew.
Not here, but
Yeah.
I've heard stories. That doesn't happen in Germany. It just doesn't.
Cool.
But so on a bad day, I'm late for my breakfast. I get frazzled. I get late to work, which means I stay a little longer,
Hmm.
which is fine. They're
So,
usually using the deadline.
do you aim for a certain number of words per day or just time?
Oh, I wish. I mean, in my ideal life, my ideal life, I would write about 2,000 words a day. I've done that during Nano, and
Yeah.
it takes me about 90 minutes. If I really
Oh, wow.
concentrate and
That's pretty good.
focus, I can do 2,000 words in about 90 minutes. Um, but it means I need to do some pre-planning. I use my walking time for pre-planning. If I'm really deep in a story, it takes me about 20 minutes. It's about a mile, a bit more than a mile, I think. It's almost 2 kilometers. And I've walked that at least 1,000 times by now. I've been working there for over 15 years. And so it's a perfect time to just let the mind roam and think about the story and just
Do you walk that in the
dedicate my
middle
attention
of
to it.
winter?
Yes.
Because I understand it gets a little cold where you are.
It does. And 2 years ago, we had a terrible winter, which started in early December and lasted until the end of April. There was snow on the ground, and I actually got out my old hiking boots.
Dear God.
And there's some apartment blocks that I walk past, and they've gotten better, but in that winter they didn't really do a whole lot of clearing the sidewalks. So it was really walking through the snow, and later slipping over the ice and everything. So that was really horrible. I was really worn out at the end of that winter.
Got a lot of good exercise in.
Well, yeah, but yes, that was hard slogging. I prefer winters without snow.
Yeah. Well, we have those in California. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the water either. So.
Well, maybe you need another El Nino winter. So.
In
my exchange year, we had an El Nino winter, and it was raining every third day. You could count it on your hands. We had a day of rain and wind, a day of wind, a nice day of rain and wind. It was just perfect. It was 82, winter of 82, 83, and it was perfect El Nino year. Everything. So, yeah.
Okay. So,
so how do you do?
So what do I do? So I have a husband and kids, and much as I would love to just say, I have to go and do my thing now, that doesn't work that way around here. So every morning I get up at 6:30. I start getting the kids ready for school. At about 7:30 or so, my husband and I go out for breakfast. That's like our date time. We have breakfast, come home. Either he rushes off to work or he goes to his desk to do some work. By 9 o'clock, I'm in my office. I actually have an office in the house. I make sure that everything is closed on my computer. I have a program called Mac Freedom installed, which is great. And what that does is it cuts you off from the internet. In order to get back on the internet, you have to reboot your computer. So it's kind of a pain.
Okay.
But you can like put in 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hours, whatever. I actually have found that I haven't needed that recently. What I do is it's 9 o'clock. It's time to start writing. I just close all the other applications. I open Scrivener, and I work. Before I start working, right, I made a list of what I do in the morning. I actually listen to a recording of affirmations from this woman named Farnoosh Brock. And I think I found her through her blog, which is called Prolific Living, which I think is at prolificliving.com. I will put the link in the show notes. And she has this sort of cute, she's from Iran, and then she moved to Turkey, and then she moved to the U.S., so she has this sort of unplaceable accent. And I listen to one set of affirmations to sort of get me in the mood. And then I start writing. I begin writing by rereading the last few paragraphs. Well, my process is different whether I'm writing first draft or whether I'm going through it again. If I'm writing first draft, I like reread the last couple things I read, and then I just go. That I wrote, and then I just write. Sometimes it's harder with doing the rewriting or second draft because I have to keep more things in mind. Oh yes, don't I have something in chapter 2 about when the penguins showed up? I should bring that in here. I don't actually have penguins in any of my books. Murderous, horrible, criminal penguins. I write until about 12:30. I make myself some lunch. I eat pretty much the same thing every day. At that point, pretty much my whole burst of writing energy is over. I'm kind of itchy, and I know I keep running into these people who are like, you have to write 10 hours a day in order to get anything done. Well, if that's what it takes to get something done, I guess I'm just never going to get something done because I get 3 to 4 really good hours in, and then I'm done. After lunch, I can edit. I tend to do more social media then. My kids come home around 2:30 or 3, and at that point I don't do anything. My kids are home. I'm either driving them somewhere or finding out what's going on with them. I try to schedule all the appointments for the late afternoon. And then evening is family time. I don't tend to write then because we spend time together. We have dinner. I cook dinner. And then we spend an hour or two watching television or playing this really great game called Pandemic. I'll put that in the show notes too. Really fun. It's a cooperation game where everyone has to work together to defeat a global pandemic. It's awesome.
Oh, yes. I've
highly recommended.
Yeah, my sister got it for Christmas.
Yeah. Having that schedule where I do the same thing every day helps immensely. It's like, it's 9 o'clock. It's time to start writing. This is actually a problem for me right now because if for any reason I don't start at 9, I tend not to get as good a start on the day.
Yes.
And I need to work on fixing that. I need to start at 10 if I have to. But I'm kind of like, oh, it's already 10. I'll do a little bit, but then I'll go on Facebook. And I don't even like Facebook. Yeah, so that's mine. Yes.
There's something I want to say about that. Putting on my coaching hat here. It looks like you have a trigger for writing, like something that tells you, okay, this is time for writing. And that trigger right now is the clock.
Yes.
And when it says 9 o'clock, it works perfectly. And when it says 9:30 or 10, the trigger is not as strong.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
That's true.
Okay. So the idea would be to replace the trigger with something else that works as a strong signal every time. And you could, I don't know, this is weird, but you could ring a bell or something for yourself. And
how very Pavlovian of you.
I don't know. Yes, I was thinking of the Deepak meditations because he does have this little bell in them.
Oh, okay.
But the dogs work too. And the first few times you need to do it at 9 because you want to replace the trigger that you have. So you need to have both triggers at the same time. And then you can start phasing out the clock trigger. I mean, you could have a beautiful chime or what are these called in English? Sound bowls or there's Zen things.
I know what that is. Usually used in Buddhist meditation.
Yeah, but anything. I mean, you could play a jingle or something. I don't know. Whatever suits you or no idea. It's just really it is a kind of conditioning. And you've conditioned yourself to the clock.
Right.
Which works. But it's not as dependable as using another conditioning signal.
Does it have to be something outside myself? Like
not necessarily.
just the act of walking into my office doesn't do it.
No. It could be a mantra that you choose.
Okay.
It could be something that you do. I don't know, whatever, a movement that you do.
What are those mudras? Mudras?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you mean this?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, I mean you just need something that you don't do otherwise during the day.
Right.
Something that is specific for the situation.
Okay. Yeah, well, I need to change something because the difference between a 9 o'clock morning and any other morning where, like, if one of the kids calls me because they're sick at school or something, that's it, boom, over.
Yeah, and I totally get that because I really think it is a question of habit, and you've attached your habit to the clock.
Yeah.
And all it takes is to attach it to something else. and have a transition time
Right.
where you do both, where you do your concentration ritual at 9 o'clock, and then you can start detaching it from the clock.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does. Do you find that most of the writers you know or have worked with need to have this?
I've seen some. I've been at nano meetings, and there have been a few people who had really ridiculous have triggers. I mean, let me call it a trigger because I thought it was ridiculous. Like this one person would literally put on a leather cap, and I thought, this is not the way I want to work. That felt really silly.
All right. I don't want to have lucky socks or anything.
No. Um, but most of them just open their file and start writing. I don't really think it needs to have an involved ritual, and I don't think that's a good way. It's a good path to follow to have your like you said, lucky socks and your writing cap and whatnot,
Right.
because that kind of stuff also tends to block people. And
Yes.
I love the concept of habit stacking. Um, I
Yeah.
forgot to look up the person who created that, but I can look it up and get it to you so you can put it into the notes.
Right.
Mm, the idea behind habit stacking is that's a process where you start with one habit and then you add a second one to it and the third and the fourth until you have a chain of actions that you don't think about doing. You just
Yeah.
start. It's like you probably have a stack of habits when you go to bed, like very stupid, flossing your teeth, brushing your teeth, whatever. Um, probably
Yeah.
involves a shower somewhere and whatnot.
No, no,
But
no. Shower, it means it's time to get up.
well, I love taking my shower in the evening,
Yeah.
so that's because I'm always cold in bed, and when I take a shower at night, I'm not. So,
Oh, okay.
um, but you don't think about it. You just do what it takes to get ready for bed. It's a series of actions that you've become um, habituated to,
Right.
and you don't think about it. It's just your whole evening ritual. And the same thing works for setting up your work day. Like what I do with getting up at a certain kind of time. A lot of freelancers try to just sleep in whenever they feel like it, and it's just horrible to create a scheduled day. So getting up at the same time, um, then I turn I it's like it's a bit more involved than I actually said. I get up, I open the door of my bedroom, which goes out to the balcony to air the bedroom. I walk into my living room, I open the windows, I start heating up water for my tea. Um, while the tea is cooking, I fire up the computer and log into it, and it takes a while to just boot everything. So when the tea is ready, I'm usually ready to start the file
At
or
this
to
point, should
log
I
into
tell
the
her to get a
meditation.
Macintosh? Then she doesn't have to boot it up every morning?
Well, I know people who leave their PCs running. I don't because it's electricity is really expensive here,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
makes a huge difference if I turn the computer off. There was one year when I didn't turn it off when I went to work, and we had a humongous electricity bill because
Oh,
my husband, who was still living with me then, he had two computers and he kept them running both most of the day, even though he wasn't really working. He
no.
could only work at one. But
Right.
so we got this huge electricity bill, and we thought, no, we really got to do something. So I started turning off my computer when I went to work, and of course at night we always turn them off at night. And he started only turning on the one computer that he wanted to use.
Right.
And we practically cut our electricity bill in half.
Oh,
That was that was
wow.
quite a lesson. That
Yeah.
was quite a lesson, and I really learned. Even if I'm only gone for 5 hours every morning, I turn off my computer when I leave, and it makes it makes a huge difference in the electricity bill. So so it takes a while for my PC to boot, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. But I have my habit so that I use, while it boots, I boil my tea, and then I log into the meditation place and do my meditation, and then I usually try not to open the emails. I
Yeah.
fail at that sometimes. I try to go straight to my writing file, and that usually works. I'm getting
So
better
with
at
this
it.
habit stacking, I assume that you just add one at a time
Yes, yes, it
because,
takes a bit
yeah,
because you have to get used to your setup, and then you can add a new one. So you can add one like every 3 or 4 days, he says. So
okay.
once you're
So
comfortable
there
with
was
it.
a program I did a while ago. It was a little email program,
Mhm.
I think called Tiny Habits or Tiny Little Habits. It sounds like sort of the same thing.
Quite possibly, yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's not a new idea really,
yeah. Okay.
but it's something that really bears thought. I mean, I really think it's one way to get clear about what you want to do in your morning, and then set it up so that you can have the same kind of actions day after day, and you don't even enter the moment when you question, do I write this morning or do I not write this morning? And once it's a habit, like when you get at the computer and you open the file, you do not open Facebook. You don't even ask yourself if that's an option, because you have the habit of first thing in the morning, open the file and start writing. And that's what I'm aiming at. I mean, nobody's perfect,
Right.
but I kind of like the way my mornings are structured right now. If they work well and I don't have any pressing blog posts to do, um, then I can write about 1,000 words in my mornings, and that's pretty cool.
That's 5,000 a week. That's 20,000 a month.
Yeah,
One
that's
of
what
the
I'm
things that
talking
I
about.
definitely have read for people who work each and every day, have to leave the house at 8 and come back at 6 or whatever,
Mhm.
um, is that they should no, um, one of the things that they complain about is finding time to work,
Yeah,
um,
right.
and that you might have. I would find it difficult to get up a half an hour early to go write, simply because my morning is scheduled around getting other people out the door.
Mhm.
Um, I would actually kind of resent, I think, having to stop uh, and go do all of my family things in the morning if my writing were going really well.
Mhm.
But if I had to get out the door, maybe that would be something, because nobody else is up. It's a good time of day to get started.
Yes.
Um, and you're probably pretty zonked. I don't know. Maybe some people come home and can write, but I would in the evening. I'm done. there's there's no writing happening then. Um,
Yeah. And
but
it
I
took me
think
a
I think
while.
people really have to add this into their day. If they're going to talk about writing, they have to
Oh
write.
yes, you need to make time for that.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to actually decide to, yes, I want to get up at 6 a.m. every morning in order to have that time for meditating, for writing, and for getting some real breakfast and not rushing off
Yeah.
and
I
just
once
work.
made a list of everything that I was supposed to get done in the morning before my day started, and I said, I think I'm going to have to start getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I have to get the meditating and the running and the writing and.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense to stick the running into days of the time when you're not creative. I mean, I've listened to a podcast with another writer, and her day is completely different. She sleeps in, she spends the morning with her dogs, gets lunch, and then she has her writing time, and she writes for about 5 hours straight.
Oh,
And
wow.
then she does some editing and social media, and her aim, and which that floored me. Her aim is writing 10,000 words a day when she's writing a novel, and
Yeah.
she's put novels like crazy. It's like, it's truly, she's putting out a novel every, I don't know, 6 weeks or something. It's
Well,
but she
yeah,
has a
the
little
people who
family,
are
so
really prolific are spending their time with what is it? Butt in chair, hands on keyboard. Bitchalk.
yes, yes,
That's
yes. And
not a
I think
swear.
you need to
It's
figure
an
out your
acronym.
creative times. I know my creative time is early morning and late evening, or evening.
Right. Hmm.
My non-creative time is between 1 and 4. Most definitely not creative time.
Well, I think that is really important. I think. Oh, who's the chick who wrote 2K to 10K? I'll put that in the
I
show
don't
notes
know.
too. It's a book that like every writer has picked up um, to increase production. And one of the things she did was create a spreadsheet when she was writing and what hours of the day she was writing. And she was
Yes.
under the impression that her best time of day was before noon, but according to her spreadsheet, it was in fact between noon and 4 or something like that. It was not what she expected at all. So she's like, oh, I should devote my time to making sure that I get writing in then.
Yeah.
So if you have to do that, I would absolutely take the time to make a spreadsheet and figure out what your most creative times are.
Yeah, and I really found out mine is definitely before 11, which
Right.
is kind of unfortunate because my day job is from 8:30 to 12:30.
Ah,
So, and I really need to leave home at 8,
neat.
so I can be home by 1. I could be home later, and I had a time when I started work at, well, when did I start? I think I tried to be there at around 10 and left at 2. That
No?
worked for quite a while, but then I don't know, something happened. I got out of the habit. I didn't write in my mornings, which was kind of stupid. But that's the kind of flexibility I could have at work. But right now, I kind of like getting home earlier. So,
No, no, that's that. Well, it's important to know.
so it really matters what time of the day is your creative time, and then to
Yes.
try and structure the day around that when writing is easy, rather than force yourself to write at a time when your mind isn't really ready to be creative.
How important, did we already discuss this? Do you find, oh dear, oh dear, oh, I didn't notice that. Um, and this is just getting worse. So why don't you talk for a while I see if I can go fix this.
Well, first of all, I really think that every writer is different, and every writer needs to figure out his or her best writing times. So I love the spreadsheet idea, just sort of plotting when you get a lot of good words in, and then to really start trying to arrange the day. Work obviously dominates, and honestly, seriously, most writers need a day job. It's the sad reality, and I need my day job, and I'm grateful for it. And so I work around that by getting up early. Other people might work around it by scheduling writing time.
And
Uh,
she's back. Okay, what have you been talking about behind my back?
oh, just scheduling writing time again.
Okay. Um, so what do you think are the key takeaways for somebody who wants to get into that mindset? Who wants to say, yes, I'm going to write every day. I'm going to make up people who don't exist and tell you about them.
Who have interesting lives other than us writers. Um,
Yes. For
yeah,
God's
well,
sakes, don't write about writers, please.
But I talked about in length about figuring out the best creative time in your life.
Yes.
So that is one of the most important steps to find out when is a good time to be prolific. When do the words flow? That's a very important thing to figure out. Then the other thing is creating this little. I don't like calling it a ritual because
Yeah, that
even
sounds
though you
kind
do
of
the same things
religious
every
and,
day,
you know.
but it's not anything that you have to follow, and you shouldn't condition yourself to having to follow something, you know, it, it can lead you down a really dangerous road if you
Yes.
think you have to do 5 things before you can write, and something happens to thing number 3, and you won't ever write again. So don't do that.
Don't do that.
But do make a list of things that can work for this habit stacking. I really like that because once you have this habit of doing a series of actions that end up taking you to your file and putting in words, mm, that makes life so much easier because you don't have to face this horrible decision every morning. Am I going to write today, or am I going to Facebook or
Right.
blog or check my email or write a blurb? And as the moment you have all these options,
Yeah.
um, your day is done.
I think,
But
yeah, the first thing you have to do is make a decision that you are a writer and you are going to give yourself this time. Maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 3 hours, whatever you have. We,
yes,
I don't think that there's any time that signals more seriousness than another, but you do have to make the time.
yes.
Yeah.
And maybe, and we haven't talked about that yet, but maybe you also need to figure out which modality fits you best. Like, I can really write best at my PC. At my setup, I have a keyboard tray, which saves me from carpal tunnel. I have my setup, I have my desk, that's where I write. Other people might prefer to write in longhand and transfer it to the computer. I've heard of some people who love to use Dragon and they actually talk their novels into
Yep.
the computer.
I
Um,
I have done that for a while. I've discovered that it's a completely different form of writing.
yes.
If I have to actually see the words appear on screen as I talk, because if I just dictate, I dictated a long piece while I was in the car one day. I was driving to San Francisco. That's about an hour away. And so I was just talking, 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 and then I came home and fed it into Dragon, and I was like, "Did you use a verb?" Everything was a gerund ending in ing. It was like I couldn't say something the way I would normally write a sentence. So I actually need to see the words appear on screen to think in a writing kind of way.
Yeah. And there are others who just love sitting on their bed, writing on their laptop, whatever.
Hmm.
I think that would also be good to figure out what's your preferred
Yes.
modality, and it might not be what you think it is. So try it out. I tried writing longhand. I bought we have these little school notebooks, and I bought one of those on vacation, and I wrote a couple of scenes in it. They never made it into the story. It
Oh,
just um, so I learned that if I'm not at my computer, the best thing I can do is to plot. When I'm away from my computer
okay.
and I have time, I plot. And I have notebooks. I have a beautiful notebook in my little backpack. That's my purse. And when I have to sit around and wait somewhere unexpectedly, I dig out that notebook and I write down plot ideas. So
Yeah.
that's my writing time away from the computer. But I love my keyboard. I have a really old keyboard, and that's the one I know I can write fastest with.
Right.
So I love that. I'm hanging on to it as long as I can. It's an old compact one, and I've actually
Wow.
almost
But see, they became somebody else like a million years ago. Wow.
I actually filched it from work. They were throwing them out, and I said, "Can I take that home with me?" And they said, "Of course you can. I mean, I'm going to throw it away." I said, "Great! I love it." I've worn the lettering off the S and the A, but
Oh yeah, I
since I
I
touched
did
the type,
S. What is it? S and C, I guess, on mine.
yeah.
S, C, and V.
So
Okay.
I've been using that thing for a long time, and I love it. It has just the right feeling, and I have a friend who could wax lyrical about keyboards, but that is my writing setup. When I'm here at my desk, that's where I put words in.
Yeah.
And I think you said you have your office, so it's
Yes,
probably
I
also.
have a laptop that I take everywhere with me.
Mhm.
But I have now set up my desk. Last year I got a treadmill desk
Ah,
because I noticed a difference between uh, getting a lot of steps in per day and my energy for getting everything else done. And I said, okay. So I actually am one of those weirdos with a treadmill desk, and I try to sell them to everyone I know because it's been awesome. One of the things that it has allowed me to do is have a giant screen, which is what I'm staring at here. Hello. So I connect the laptop to the giant screen, and I write on that. And pretty much I do, sometimes if I have to get out of the house, I'll take the laptop and go to the library or to a Starbucks or something. Yeah. But I've actually come to really enjoy my setup here. So, and now I find it very difficult to sit for long periods of time. So I would prefer to write at the standing desk.
You're actually standing right now.
I am actually standing right now.
Cool.
Which is part of how I have to figure out how to adjust the camera here because it's a little high. It's looking down on me. Hello. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I got a new camera. You may have noticed. I can't really arrange it a whole lot, but
yeah. Yes, I did.
I'm happy with it. So, yeah, figure out your writing time, figure out your creative days, get your habits up.
Figure out a signal that says this is my time to write.
Yes.
Yes.
And figure out your optimal setup for writing, and I think then you have most of the obstacles out of the way because we want to eliminate all these moments where you can stop and say, do I really want to do this?
Yeah.
And
the more decision paths you can take out of your day, the better. One of the reasons I have the same thing for lunch every day. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to prepare. It's good enough. I'm done.
Yeah, and I have my setup for the morning. When I have my tea, I make a little bit of lunch for my work. And while I make the lunch, I may toast some bread for breakfast. I write it in my journal while I do my breakfast, and it's like I do that every morning. And when I'm on vacation or on weekends, and I skip that,
yeah,
my day is gone.
Shot. Well, that was part of the great thing about when I was in Hawaii was I got up really early and I made my coffee because there is no day without coffee. And then I would go write until everybody else got up because they were on vacation and they were sleeping in. And then we'd go about the day, and I was perfectly happy to forget everything about computers and writing for the rest of the day.
Because you did your.
I had my time. So.
That's perfect.
Okay, so one of the things, did you want to do an EFT session today?
I was thinking about it, but I have a feeling we're running out of time.
Okay.
And I think we already have a lot of stuff to take away for our writing.
Yeah, I know. I'm like been trying to make notes on the show notes as we're going, so I remember what to add in. Well, one of the things I was thinking is that it might be best to do the EFT session at the end, so that if people have been listening and don't want to pull off the road or something, then they can stop there. But if they want to do the session, then they can just do it then. So put it at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, because then we have also material to tap about. At the beginning, it's really rather academic to do tapping around, and I honestly. Well, I could do a really quick one, but I don't feel like it's a good idea right now.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to, if you really want a tapping round for getting over resistance to creating habits, let me know. Send me a message on, I don't know, Facebook, through our website, whatever, and I create a blog post with that and let you know.
Oh, yes, and our website is the 21st Century writer.com. And here, let me put that, let me see if I can. That change?
Yeah, it's and I don't even know it by heart. I need to look at it.
There, look, the 21st Century writer.com. So awesome. Thank you for joining us for another awesome podcast. I will make sure that all of these show notes are up on the website and on iTunes. So you can link to all these fabulous things that we were talking about and find out more about them. Feel free to drop us a note at podcast@the21stcenturywriter.com. Actually, I think you can write to Diane or Hannah at the21stcenturywriter.com, but I'm not sure about that. I know for certain that there's the email address podcast@the21stcenturywriter.com. And next week, what is our topic next week, Hannah?
Here's a good one for you. Yes. I know you. I remember how you reacted when I mentioned the famous or infamous book called "Kill the Cat" or "Save the Cat."
Oh, Save the Cat, yes.
And I think it would be a good idea to talk about that book and possibly some other writing guides and how valuable they are and how you really use them to your own best. Because I would say there's 1,001 writing guides out there, but there's no single path that is correct for you as a writer, and I would love to talk about that next time.
Okay. Well, I can go on at length about that, so this could be a very long podcast. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next week to talk about Save the Cat and other writing guides.
All right.
So signing off for this week, my name is Diane Patterson.
And I am Hannah Steenbach.
And see you soon. Bye.
Bye for now.